just interrupting the podcast because I want to talk to you about motorsporttickets.com, and I promise you, you're not going to want to miss out on this one. As the motorsport season starts, now is the best time to secure your tickets before they start to go up in price or to sell out. Motorsporttickets.com have a huge variety of different tickets from Formula 1 race weekends, which of course include Formula 2 and Formula 3, the World Endurance Championship, MotoGP, Le Mans 24 Hours, and so many other events that are going on in the world of motorsport. Get your tickets fast now by following the link in the description to see all of their exclusive offers. Right, back to the podcast. Hello everyone and welcome to the F2 show by Inside F2. Joining me to reflect on round number 6 of the season, we have Inside F2's Aaron Harper and Lawrence Griffin. Chaps, welcome to the show. Hopefully you're not sunburnt like me. I look like I've spent a weekend in Barcelona without any sun cream on, don't I? But yeah, Aaron, it was a good weekend of racing in Barcelona, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really exciting, wasn't it? We had lots of action on track, lots of overtaking. The drivers obviously had to manage their tyres and not exceed track limits. That was a big factor on Saturday, and most of them learnt their lesson on Sunday. And we had some really outstanding performances in terms of Victor Martins and Jack Crawford taking the victories, which is really good for them. Obviously, the big story from the weekend was Juan Manuel Correa. Technically 2 podiums. They took one away for track limits, which was just terrible, but you know, he did the business on Sunday, got himself back up there. So it was great to see JM on the podium. And I think it's a real marker for the journey that he's been on and a real sort of shot in the arm for F2. It's a feel-good story for F2. But there's always a feel-good story in F2 because it's just the best series.
Definitely. We're going to come on to that story very soon. Lawrence, yeah, good weekend of action. It was, quite entertaining, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You had drivers coming through right at the end, you know, lightning fast on nice fresh tyres. You had hard racing. You had, you know, the rules coming into play, demoting some drivers through track limits. You had teammates coming together. There was drama everywhere. It was great, and it's going to give us a lot to sink our teeth into.
It certainly is. We're going to be talking about, obviously, JM Correa's first podium since 2019. We're also going to be discussing a win for Victor Martins at long last this season. And we're going to be talking about Franco Colapinto and a podium for him as well. But Jack Crawford, a race winner once again in Formula 2. And it was a good strategy, a composed race, and really good performance by him, wasn't it, Aaron?
It was a really mature drive from Jack, and he made his race through the pit stops. That undercut, getting in track position on Paul Aron, which meant that he wasn't getting the dirty air, which was ruining his tyres. It was Paul Aron who was the original race leader, and it meant that he could control the pace. And DRS wasn't particularly strong down the main straight, so it wasn't like you were constantly under threat. And once Paul Aron made that mistake in the final corner, Jack was essentially free to just see it home. He wasn't really ever too much pressure from that point onwards, but he still had to keep his wits about him, stay within the track limits, make no mistakes. There could have been a safety car or something that could have caught him out, and that could have put his position at risk. There wasn't, and he cruised essentially to a very, very deserved win. I think that is absolutely undeniable. It was a real step forward for him. I think that's we've seen him do good races in the past, but I think this was a really assured drive, very mature, and you know we forget how young these drivers are. So even more so considering their age, but a fantastic drive from him. And DAMS did a great job all weekend. They had cars that were very quick, good on their tyres. It just worked so well. So well done to DAMS, well done to Jack, and I'm sure we'll talk about JM Correa in a minute. He was fantastic too.
Yeah, you spoke about the age thing there, and I think we forget that how young Jack Crawford is. He's still one of the youngest drivers on the Formula 2 grid. He was fast-tracked through his junior career, through Formula 3. And could this be a bit of a pivotal weekend in his career? Could this be a springboard for him to push on and put a championship campaign together, Lawrence?
I hope so, because he's 4th in the drivers' standings now, and he's put himself well and truly into that conversation. I think the most exciting thing about Jack Crawford is, like you say, he's still very young. The most exciting thing is his trajectory. we saw last season real flashes of brilliance, and we saw the talent that he does have. But what we've seen this year is a much more consistency brought into his driving, which is something, add another pound in the consistency jar for this podcast, something that we always talk about because it is so important. But he's building that into his driving now. You don't get up to fourth for nothing in this series, which is so competitive. And it was another really good, really calm and assured drive, and hopefully that will just give him that extra bit of confidence he needs now, with that confidence going through the team as well, with the weekend they've had, to go ahead and start competing at the front, race in, race out, and hopefully make a proper title bid. We've got some more races coming up thick and fast now, so why not keep that momentum up for Austria and beyond?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no reason why he can't put together a title campaign. Only just turned 19 years old as well. Still one of the youngest drivers on the grid in Formula 2. So, hopefully this will be a real confidence boost for Jack Crawford. From one feel-good story to another, JM Correa returning to a Formula 2 podium for the first time since 2019. What a story, Aaron. What a story.
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it? Not just for Formula 2 or for motorsport, for sport in general. When you think back 5 years ago, the tragic circumstances in which we lost Antoine Hubert, and the journey that JM has had to go on, that mental torture that he's had to deal with, having survived what happened, reconstructive surgery on his leg, essentially learned to walk again. Forget driving a racing car or any car. He's had to learn to walk again. The fact that he is back in a motor racing car is astonishing in itself. That he's now able to deliver podiums and first-class performances is just outstanding. It speaks so much to his personality, his character, his determination. He said in the press conference this weekend that he doesn't back down from a challenge, and that is absolutely true. He has been through one of the biggest challenges a single person could go through in their life.
Yeah,
he's come out the other side of it in his delivery. And he's such a credit, not only to himself and to his family, but to his teams that he's representing in Formula 2 and in other series, but just to sport in general. He's a fantastic person. He's very mature. When he was giving his answers in the press conference, very thoughtful, very sort of assured about how he was conducting himself. And obviously the fact that he's back on the podium, it comes sort of 5 years to the day that he was last on the podium. So almost poetic, isn't it? It was almost meant to be. You almost get the feeling that Antoine was sort of looking down on him this weekend and just guiding him there and helping him along. And, it's just fantastic. It was so cruel that it was taken away on Saturday, but he got the chance to do it all again on Sunday. So, it was great for him. He drove magnificently all weekend. Qualifying was really good. His race pace was excellent. The overtakes he put on drivers late on in the feature race was superb as well. So you can't ask for much more. The only thing that was missing was, of course, the top step of the podium. But maybe that's not far around the corner.
Yeah, I definitely echo those words, Aaron. Really nice words as well, by the way. JM Correa, one of the nicest people on the grid. Amazing what he's been through. He's come out the other side, and how brilliantly he's overcome that. I was in the paddock last year in Austria, and he was, he invited me into the VAR tent, and sat down and had a chat with him. He's a lovely, lovely chap. Really, really happy for him. And as you say, I was gutted on Saturday when his podium was potentially taken away from him, and I was thinking, oh no, he finally gets himself back on the podium, and he just manages to get back on it on Sunday, Lawrence. Could have been a completely different weekend, right? It could have been a weekend of thinking, oh no, what could have been? But he managed to do it again on Sunday. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to pick up just off the back of what Aaron was saying, what an incredible story. As Aaron rightly says, I think it's hard to understate the psychological and physical effects of that crash, and it's really hard to imagine what coming back from that was like for him. And so the fact that he managed to step onto the podium this weekend speaks firstly to who he is as a human being, to be able to get himself back up to that point and to even want to step into a racing car again, and also to his talent and his ability, because it's all very well and good saying I'm going to give it another go. That's obviously one massive hurdle, but then to be able to perform to this level in order to get onto a podium in Formula 2 is just outstanding. And what a fantastic story. And it had one last twist in the tail, didn't it? It was. I think everyone took to social media after the race to congratulate Juan Manuel Correa and highlight the 5-year journey that he's been on to get back to the podium. And then as soon as people were doing that, the news soon came in that he'd been demoted. I think we were all absolutely heartbroken. But then to see him whack on the soft tyres at the end of the feature race and start moving up the grid, and you go, hang on a minute, I tell you what, there could be another podium here for him. What a wonderful way for the weekend to end, capping off one of the great sports stories, not just F1 stories, sports stories. It was wonderful.
Completely agree. Great result for JM Correa, and a great weekend for DAMS as well, Aaron. Where are they behind in this pace from all year? They've were by far the quickest team this weekend, though.
It just speaks to how competitive Formula 2 is, because it swings from one team to another throughout even a race weekend. We've seen teams be absolutely amazing on a Saturday or a Friday, and then it just all evaporates. On the next day, it changes with the track conditions, the track layout. Well, we saw Invicta were amazing earlier in the season. They're still very good, but they missed those opportunities to have race wins, and they didn't take them, and they're kind of paying for it now. And DAMS have seized the opportunity, scored big points this weekend when they had the car to do so. And that's what it's all about. If you want to win a team's championship or a driver's championship, you've got to score big when you have the opportunity to do so. And I think we'll see it swing again in Austria. Prema are overdue a good weekend. Don't be surprised if they rock up and suddenly have 2 rocket ships to go around the Red Bull Ring. Because this weekend it was DAMS, and they did a amazing job. They those tyres were taking a beating through all of the corners at all times around the Barcelona circuit, and DAMS were the only team to really get on top of it and just manage the rubber. That is the most important thing you can do as a team and as a driver, is manage the rubber that you've got. That's the primary contact patch with the ground, and that's what gives you grip to go around corners. If you treat them nicely, they'll be kind to you in turn, and they did that best, and they reaped the benefits.
Yeah, a great weekend for DAMS, topped off by the fact that they were voted as the team of the round for round 6 by InsideF2.com. Or by you, the fans, on InsideF2.com. So massive well done to them. Team of the round for round 6. Okay, moving on then. Franco Colapinto, a great result for him. P2 in the feature race, and it moves him level on points with his teammate, Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been really great to see not just the results that he's been getting, but the manner in which he gets them as well. That was a really hard-fought battle with Bortoleto through the feature race, and he showed wonderful pace, and is another driver who is building in their experience and building in their confidence, and is just an exciting driver to watch, which I think is what we love more than anything in this series. So it's wonderful to see that sort of talent show through, and him to be yet another driver that we're throwing into the mix as someone who can get up there. If you were to predict who gets pole in Austria next week or who wins, you've got probably more than 10 drivers in there, and Colapinto is absolutely one of them. So great to see him having a great weekend as well.
Yeah, great result for him. And going from one South American to another, Josh Dirksen posted on Instagram that he thought he could have won the race, the feature race that is, if he'd not had the issue that caused him to DNF, obviously in the feature race. He was 6 seconds ahead of JM Correa before he had the issue. Obviously, Correa went on to finish on the podium and finished 5.8 seconds away from Jack Crawford. So does he have a point, Aaron? Could he have won the feature race?
It's a definite possibility because you look at the pace that JM had coming out of the pits. Depending on when AIX boxed Dirksen for those soft tyres and how he had dealt with them afterwards. Obviously, JM said to me after the race that you needed to treat the soft tyres nicely. You didn't want to get too overexcited with them in that final stint. JM pitted with 10 laps to go, so he still had a fair distance to do on them. But you also had to make the moves stick. Look, Dirksen is a young driver. He's got that podium in Imola, so he's got lots of confidence. He's still a rookie, though. I would just sort of temper expectations of a potential feature race win with how carried away would he have been? How excited would he have sent it when there wasn't really a chance? He was thinking, this is my chance. I need to get through. Could there have been a mistake? We see it in Formula One with young drivers trying to get that opportunity to get a podium, to get a race win, and it all goes wrong. I'm not doubting that Josh would have had a great opportunity to win. I think he really would have. But there's a lot of what-ifs around it. But up to the point of his race stopping, he did a brilliant job. He qualified, I believe, in the top 10. So he was in the hunt early on, ran the alternate, well, I'd say the alternate strategy because he started on hards, not on softs. And he was going very, very well. Built a 6-second cushion to JM Correa and was looking in control. So, yeah, credit where credit's due. He did a really good job up to the point where the car let him down. Whether he would have won the race or not, it would have been very, very close. He'd have had to pass Jack Crawford, who would have made it very, very difficult. So, almost certainly a podium, maybe a race win, but there's a lot of what-ifs around that.
Yeah, qualified P7 and an incredible pace by AIX in general over the last 3 rounds. Much improved. So, there may be another opportunity later on in the season for them to pick up a win. Or another win after Taylor Barnard's win. A sprint race win for Victor Martins, Lawrence. And we know how difficult a season it's been for Victor Martins. But he's finally managed to get a win. Can you use this as a bit of a springboard to push on now?
Maybe. I hope so. I hope that he can, because he did everything he needed to do in that sprint race. He was quick. He looked quite comfortable throughout, and as they said in commentary, we almost forgot that he was there, which is about the best compliment you can give to a racing driver, really, to be out in front, dominating, managing the tyres. It's not surprising. We know that Martins can do that. We know the quality he has. If this is your first season watching Formula 2, you might think it's quite surprising because it just hasn't been going his or ART's way this year. So it is nice to see, people reminded of the quality that he has, and for him to be able to stand on the top step of the podium. I'm not sure how much that will make up for then getting taken out of the feature race the next day and ending up in the gravel by turn 2. He would be absolutely gutted by that. Not at all his fault. Hauger going off and keeping his foot in it and coming back across the curb and just tagging him and race over. And Martins was down in 10th, of course. But with the way the race panned out, with the different tyre strategies, who knows if he could have been right up there. So a really, really disappointing one for him. And those 10 points in the sprint race are great, but it doesn't compare to what you get for a feature race. So it's still another weekend that hasn't quite gone to plan for him. So I really do hope those fortunes improve, and maybe that win on Saturday and that taste of success on the top step of the podium will just give him a bit of confidence again to go on and get some more wins this season. I think it's something that we'd all love to see, because there's an incredible championship battle hotting up, and if Victor Martins started to play his part in that's something we'd all we'd all love to see him getting up there in the upper reaches of the grid and scrapping with some of the people like Hadjar or Aaron who've been performing more consistently.
Yeah, definitely a difficult weekend for Hauger as well. Obviously, the person who made contact with Victor Martins Lawrence, not quite the weekend he would have been hoping for either. No points at all again.
Yeah, that's right. Another disappointing weekend for Dennis Hauger, a former F3 champion who hasn't quite lived up to that expectation yet in Formula 2. He's been having a better season, even if he's not sort of maybe captured everyone's attention in the way we might want. He's been very consistent and he's been right up there in the point standing. So he is still having a good season. If he has a couple of good rounds, puts a few good rounds together, gets a win or two, he will be right up there again. But yeah, just not quite what he wanted, and it's just those finest of margins, those split seconds decisions that you're going to have to make as a driver. He decided to keep his foot on it, tried to come back onto the track. In the end, that's not worked out for him, and it's another sort of gutting result. But definitely no need to despair or to write him off just yet.
Still P5 in the standings, even though he's only scored 15 points in the last 3 race weekends. So it is anyone's game in the championship, isn't it? It's stick a few good weekends together, and you are right in with a shot at winning the championship, aren't you? So the guy who is leading the championship at the moment, Paul Aaron, maintains his lead, 100 points now, first driver into triple figures this season. A pole position as well this weekend, Aaron. He's ticked that one off the list. How will he reflect on this weekend? Obviously made a mistake in the feature race, which probably cost him a podium, didn't it?
Yeah, he'll look back on this weekend and think it's probably one that got away. Minimum a P2, probably. Maybe Correa or Dirksen coming through on softs late on would have bumped him down to P3, but almost certainly a podium. He'll take confidence from the fact that he put the car on pole position, and while he was out front, he looked in control, which I suppose we shouldn't be surprised about, because a lot of these drivers have spent a lot of time at the front in their junior careers up to this point. So, we see it when drivers graduate to Formula One, they scrabble around in the midfield a little bit, then suddenly they find themselves in a race-winning car, and they look at home because this is all they've ever done. They've never seen cars in front of them before. They don't know what to do with that. So, you put these drivers at the front, they know exactly what to do to stay there. And, the strategy played out. I think maybe it would have been really interesting to see how things would have progressed between Jack Crawford and Paul Aaron without the mistake. I think we'd have had a really interesting battle towards the last few laps, because Crawford would have been forced into pushing his tyres. Aaron would have been using his tyres. Would there have been an advantage at some point? When push came to shove, would someone have given ground? Would they have both ended up in the gravel with wings missing? You never know. But for Paul Aaron, 100 points on the board already. He's just continuing to tick off points. Yes, he made that mistake. He still finished P4, and he got more points this weekend than Victor Martins, who won the sprint race, which tells you everything about sort of. I say the sprint race is important, but it's not as important as the feature races, which is absolutely right. And obviously, you can take a lot of confidence from winning the sprint race, but those points on the board are so important. And he'll look back at this weekend and he might go, I really should have done better. He's actually extended his championship lead over Hadjar. So that's never a bad thing. So at the moment, it's okay. And that consistency, that keyword consistency, he's still getting the points. That's all you need to do. That race win will come, hopefully, for him. And look at last year's champion. Théo Pourchaire won the opening feature race of the year and then just spent the rest of the season picking up podiums and good points. And then he found his way to F1 blocked, but that's another story.
Yeah, definitely. For anyone who's playing inside F2 bingo, you can tick consistency off the scorecard as well. We've mentioned that again on the podcast, but it's so true, isn't it? That consistency is key. And Paul Aaron has scored a podium in every single round so far this season, the only driver to do so, and he is doing everything he needs to do to at least compete for the championship right now. Absolutely. The Invicta pair of Bortoleto and Kush Miney. came together at the end of the feature race. What's the golden rule in motorsport? Don't crash with your teammate, and they did, Lawrence. Just wanted to get your thoughts on that, really.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think Bortoleto, he's often quite aggressive. He gets the elbows out, and that's brilliant, and usually knows where that limit is. This is an incident which is really quite hard to call, I think. You have Miney sweeping round the outside of Bortoleto going deep, slightly onto the curb, maybe sliding slightly wide. Does Miney pinch him a bit too much, doesn't give him enough space? Does Bortoleto have, the inside? Miney's coming with more momentum. It's a really tricky one, coming together. But what you can say is both of them could have done more to avoid that collision, and a shame to see when the team obviously has such amazing pace. But I think you've got to look at it from Bortoleto's perspective, as Miney's coming through with way more performance in that car and in those tyres. It's only a matter of time, and if you scrap too much, you're only going to disadvantage yourself in that race. And so I think a little bit more restraint would have paid off there. So a tricky one, but I think Bortoleto could have done more to avoid that personally.
Yeah, Aaron, any agree, disagree?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because on one hand, you've got two drivers who are both in it for themselves. Racing drivers are selfish beasts. They want the best result possible for themselves. Lawrence made a really good point that it was basically a matter of time before Miney came past on the better tyres. And I think you saw that play out in the accident itself, because Bortoleto actually lost the rear of the car, which sent him into Miney, and that was where the damage was done. Obviously, Cush had asked to be let through beforehand. I think if he'd said on the radio, if he lets me past and I don't get Hadjar, I'll give the place back. And you've got to trust him on his word there. And it builds trust if he does it. We saw famously 2017, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas do the switch, and then they swap places back right at the end of the race because Lewis couldn't get past the Ferraris. We've seen other teams do it as well in more recent years, some more effectively than others. Think back to the Alpine pair, I think it was in Suzuka last year. It was very difficult for them. And those two are employed by the team. F2 drivers aren't. So, and they're, like I said, they're out for their own interests. Part of me wishes that teams had a little bit more power in that sense to control the drivers. And because, Miney would have potentially got past quite easily. Could he have got Hadjar? I doubt it. But it would have been fun to see him have a go. Rather than us sitting here going, wow, the Invicta boys, they look a bit silly, don't they? No one wants to see that. No one wants to see that. And they both look really silly now. The team are probably really annoyed about it as well. But there's not a lot they can do, unfortunately. And I say it like it's a bad thing, but that's part of why we love F2, because all the drivers are kind of in it for themselves and they won't give an inch. And it makes great racing.
Yeah, I don't think Bortoleto's engineer was overly happy on the radio, was he? So, but as you say, not quite the same in Formula 2 as it is in Formula 1 in terms of teammates and how much control teams have over drivers. So, I think Alex Jake summed it up nicely. That will be a bit of an awkward debrief, I think. Moving on then to Rookie Watch. We obviously just discussed Bortoleto. Any rookies that stood out for you this weekend, Aaron? Pepe Marti back in the points for the first time since Jeddah. Really difficult weekend for Antonelli, obviously stalled on the grid. A few drivers to jump into there.
Yeah, it was really disappointing for Kimi Antonelli. He was in a decent position within the top 10. I think he was starting on hard, so he would have been pretty quick coming through on the softs towards the end.
Like P5 as well.
Yeah, so he maybe he could have won the race. Maybe he could have won the feature race, but we'll never know. Pepe Marti, good for him to get some points at his home race, but obviously he's very much in the shadow of his teammate Isaac Hadjar. But I think that's an experience thing, because Pepe is, of course, a rookie. Isaac's got a year of experience under his belt, and he's got momentum at the moment. He's getting good results. But we did see him lose his rag over the radio a little bit in qualifying, because he was frustrated with finishing that session in 11th, and he would have expected much more from it, considering at one point I think he was on provisionally the front row. So yeah, it's tricky being a rookie, and apart from maybe like Colapinto and Paul Aron, it wasn't really a weekend for rookies because it's a circuit. Well, so you need experience, and they've all done loads of laps, but I think knowing the racing around that circuit and how to manage the tyres, very, very important.
Lawrence Colapinto, the standout for you? I know we've already discussed him, but is he the standout rookie this weekend?
I think so. I think it looked like the most mature drive of any rookie there. As Aaron says, it's one of those tracks that a lot of drivers do know well, but if you haven't raced in F2 there before, you're at a slight disadvantage. You look at drivers like Miata in the sprint race, just perhaps showing that inexperience in terms of just misjudging track limits and really ruining his race.
Well, wasn't it?
It was so close, and you're following in the dirty air of the car in front, and you've got such little margin, but the best drivers under that pressure, following another car, dealing with the aero wash, they're able to judge those millimeter margins, which make all the difference, which is why these sports people are so incredible. But he just fell short. But yeah, Colapinto, a really, really calm and professional performance, getting the job done in terms of getting that overtake on Bortoleto and having a proper tussle with him, but keeping it clean as well. So a wonderful performance from him.
Definitely, yeah. Let us know in the comments your rookie of the weekend. We want to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on that. Drive of the weekend time now. Drum roll, please, chaps. Unsurprisingly, it was JM Correa who was voted your drive of the weekend for round number 6 on InsideF2.com. One of the best stories of the season so far, isn't it? And I'm sure it's very, very unsurprising that he's picked up that for this weekend. You can vote for driver of the weekend and team of the weekend on our social media channels. So head over to our Twitter at InsideF2. InsideF2. I've got the handle right, just checking. Or on Instagram at Inside Formula 2 to get involved and vote in those as well. Okay, let's take a look at the championship standings before we go then. Paul Aron becomes the first driver to reach triple figures this season, moving to 100 points and maintaining his lead at the top of the standings. He moved 9 points clear of Isaac Hadjar. Jack Crawford moves up to 4th in the standings after his feature race win, ahead of MP pair Dennis Hauger and Franco Colapinto, who are tied on points. A first pointless weekend in his Formula 2 career for Kimi Antonelli means that he moves down to P9 in the standings. Zach O'Sullivan rounds out the top 10. And the team standings? Campos lead the team standings by just 1 point from High Tech now after a strong weekend for the Silverstone-based team. DAMS recorded the highest number of points for a team in a single weekend so far this season, moving them above Prema and into the top 6. Woeful weekend for Prema, by the way, not a good weekend for them. VAR, Trident and AIX round out the team standings. Okay, that is all we've got time for today. But Lawrence Griffin, I believe you have some news, which I'm very sad about. Tell the listeners what your exciting news is.
So yeah, I'm going to be, unfortunately, this is going to be my last appearance on the F2 show. It's what is it? This will be the 4th season now, but the next step of the journalism journey is ahead for me, so I'm going to be taking a step back from Inside F2 duties. But from that first sort of press release I wrote up in 2021 and being on the Silverstone podcast with my windows closed so there was no background noise, and it was boiling hot in those summer's day, and I was sweating, I was so nervous, to hear. It's been the most wonderful journey. That first article I wrote was the first time I'd written for any other person other than myself on my own blog, and that first podcast appearance was the first time anyone would have sort of heard my voice in any kind of journalistic capacity. So I can't say thank you enough to this Inside F2 family for these opportunities I've had, and it's been wonderful to share it with you guys, the fans, and hear your comments and sort of hear your engagement, and share the love of the sport with you guys. So yeah, it's been a fantastic journey, and I'm quite sad it's coming to an end.
Listen, Lawrence, from all of us here at Inside F2, and I'm sure the fans will agree as well, a massive thank you for your contribution over the last 3 years, helping us get to over 100,000 subscribers in that time as well. A large part of that down to you and your contribution every single weekend. You'll be missed by the Inside F2 community, but I'm sure they wish you all the very best of luck as well. And I'm going to miss you, mate. Just on a personal level, I'm going to miss speaking to you every couple of weeks. So listen, best of luck. Aaron, we'll sort an upgrade for the next few weekends.
Yeah, someone with better internet connection, please.
Amazing. Listen, we'll be back next weekend to review all of the action from round number 7 in Austria, so keep an eye out for that podcast. But from me, Fraser Ford, and all of us here at Inside F2, we'll see you next time.